Now, let's talk a little bit about J. Cole's role in hip-hop. Specifically, I'm talking about the Big Brother role that he seems to be taking on, and I'm pretty sure you already know what I'm talking about. Ever since KOD got released, I'm seeing J. Cole embrace this Big Brother role in all aspects of his career more and more. And I think considering the place hip-hop is in right now, this is something we very much need. Let's take a look at his most recent song, which is of course Middle Child. Now, Middle Child pretty much puts J. Cole in the center of hip-hop. On one hand, he's schooling a lot of the younger cats in the game by telling them how he wouldn't do something like dissing another one of his peers because two legends can in fact coexist. Keep in mind, this is something a lot of the younger rappers in the game don't seem to understand. You don't have to disrespect the next man in order to appear better than you are. And we all know that this is simply a result of the cloud chasing mentality a lot of people seem to carry nowadays. Even though there's a lot of great things about hip hop in 2019, let's not lie to ourselves. There's also a lot of bad things. And I think J. Cole does a really good job at countering a lot of that bullshit. And when I say this, I'm not talking about just one specific situation. I'm talking about the fact that he overall as an artist is setting a higher standard for what a rapper is supposed to be. J. Cole has once in his lifetime been in the same position as a Lil Pump. The only difference is he obviously came up in a different time, and they both have two completely different mentalities, not only towards making music, but just overall towards life. And this mentality that I'm talking about, this is something that automatically becomes a part of how people identify you as a rapper. And not only that, you also attract the kind of fans who actually care about how you as a rapper carry yourself outside of just rapping. When it comes to J. Cole and this Big Brother role that I'm talking about, if you think about it, no matter how much he's accomplished in his career thus far, he's actually very far from someone like Jay-Z. Someone like Jay-Z is obviously an OG who's been prospering in 3 different decades, and the only person I could think about who's done that and is still relevant is Eminem. These are two people who've gotten to the point where they could be considered, actually not even considered, they are bigger than rap. But someone like J. Cole though, he's not there yet, but he's definitely on his way. And while he's on that path, he's acknowledging the fact that the middle child position in hip-hop needs to be filled. He's definitely above someone like Lil Pump, but he's not above someone like Jay-Z, which puts him right in the middle. And that's where the opportunity for connecting the younger generation and the older generation comes in. Things like him sitting down with Lil Pump for that interview, or him collabing with 21 Savage on A Lot, or him putting up a tweet like this encouraging any artists who are struggling with substance abuse to reach out to him to vent. And these are all things that are solidifying his Big Brother role in the rap game. You also gotta keep in mind, J. Cole positioning himself right in between the new generation and the old generation is a very strategic move. And let me tell you exactly what I'm talking about when I say this. Look at someone like Kendrick. After Kendrick has released a project and promoted it by doing things like radio station interviews, he's gone on tour, etc., the thing that always seems to come after that is a long ass hiatus. And this is something J. Cole himself has always done up until he dropped KOD. Now, what is the quote-unquote issue with taking a step back from the spotlight just like Kendrick does? By the way, I'm putting this in quotation marks because technically it's not really an issue if you aren't even attempting at doing what J. Cole is doing. But for the sake of making a clear distinction here, let's just call it an issue for now. The issue with this is the fact that you as a rapper, you won't really be all up in people's faces. To be fair, of course, if your name is Kendrick, then you don't really need to be all up in people's faces because you're really just that good and have that much of an impact on people to the point where dropping a project every 2 to 3 years is gonna satisfy your fan base. But if your name is J. Cole and you want to have an impact on the biggest demographic of listeners in hip-hop, which is the younger generation, constantly relating to that audience by collaborating with people who they support is not only gonna make the rappers who you collaborate with mess with you, it's not only gonna make someone like Trippie Redd mess with you even though you haven't collaborated with him, but now you also have their listeners on your side. One thing I've been asking myself from time to time when it comes to J. Cole regarding this Big Brother role that I'm talking about is, why do people even care about what he has to say? One answer that I could think about when it comes to that is J. Cole's long path to greatness. Once upon a time, J. Cole was a struggle rapper standing outside of his idol studio for hours with a burned CD full of instrumentals just to get rejected by him. But the good thing about this is 1 year later, he got a phone call from Mark Pitts, who is a veteran A&R, and he told him that Jay-Z wanted to personally meet J. Cole after hearing one of his tracks. And that's how J. Cole became the first artist signed to Roc Nation. And when I say his long path to greatness, this is exactly what I'm talking about. He has a history of coming from that bottom that we all could somehow relate to. I think in J. Cole's case, when we're talking about this Big Brother role that he has, he doesn't only have it because he's worked this hard and made it this far and people look up to him. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's approaching the rap game with the intention of being helpful. He's almost like that friend in your life who'll only help you if you actually ask them for help. I think a great example we can bring up here is 1985 from KOD, a song who every single rapper, even if you haven't quote unquote made it, should listen to and study because because it's not full of knowledge for no reason. All the gems that he's dropping on this record is supposed to be something that you as a rapper listen to carefully and implement into your career. Another example I want to use here is Logic's relationship with J. Cole.
You're the reason why I'm here, you know? You're the guy that was saying all the things and doing all the things that when I was a teenager I wanted to do.
In Logic's own words, J. Cole is the reason why Logic is Logic. The hungriness aspect of Logic's mixtape days is something that comes directly from Cole. He was the person who helped build the mind of Logic.
I was like, I don't know if you realize this, man. I was like, but you were rapping to me.
Now I want to ask you something. What exactly is a good role model as far as a rapper goes? A lot of the times we do talk about how certain rappers are good role models, but what exactly does this even mean? From my perspective at least, I think it's as simple as being who you are effortlessly without putting on any kind of show. But the funny thing here is at one point in his career, J. Cole was the opposite of that because he was rocking designer clothes and a bunch of chains when deep down he knew that wasn't a part of his true identity. But the difference between J. Cole and your average rapper who falls into the flexing mentality is he quickly started to change after realizing that that was not him. That's why a project like Forest Hills Drive even exists in the first place, and that was pretty much the death of the materialistic side of him. J. Cole's big brother role in hip-hop is definitely something that I see evolving into bigger and better things. As he himself is elevating in his career, I want you to pay attention to the way he's bringing hip-hop together piece by piece. He's doing that by number one, building a strong bond between the young and old, and I think that's something that's very much needed right now considering the contrast between a lot of rappers in the game. Now, what did he say on Middle Child? I'm dead in the middle of two generations, some little bro and big bro all at once. And yeah, that's exactly what J. Cole's big brother role in hip hop really means and really is.